Hello, Andrew here yet again, and this is episode 104. Today we're looking at the issue of judgment. We're carrying on through the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew's Gospel, and we're picking up the narrative at Matthew chapter 7 verses 1 through to 5. Hear the words of Jesus. Do not judge, so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. Why do you see the speck in your neighbour's eye, but do not notice the log in your own? Or how can you say to your neighbour, let me take the speck out of your eye, while the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will be able to see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbour's eye. Judgment in kingdom living is self-destructive. It's ultimately like being involved in a circular firing squad. We all get hurt. When we judge others, we judge ourselves. Something happens on the inside of us, where our humanity is violated and we feel the pain of it. I'm assuming that's true for others because I know it's true for me. And we constantly fear rejection. We've judged others and have ourselves been found wanting. While we may imagine that this produces in us a sense of superiority, in fact that effect is fleeting, and often replaced by one of self-condemnation, where we see our own susceptibility and readiness for judgment. Judgment ultimately comes back to bite us. Others will hold us to the same standard, expect consistency, and point to our hypocrisy. Tony Campolo, years ago, was being interviewed by Linda Clark on national radio. It was on 9 to noon. This was, as I say, quite some years back. And I remember putting to him, she said, you evangelists, she meant evangelicals, but never mind. She said, you evangelists say, love the sinner and hate the sin. And he just laughed out loud. And he says, actually, that's not what Jesus says. Jesus says, love the sinner and hate your own sin. And he's actually pointing to this text. And he's right. That's exactly what Jesus is saying. Love the sinner and hate your own sin. You've got no business looking at the sin of other people. A while back, Lynn and I were in our room and it was early, and I went over to open the curtains and I stumbled over her shoes. She has a goodly collection of shoes and I was irritated by it. And I commented to it about all these shoes. She just pointed to the other side of the room, my side of the room. And as I looked, of course, there was another large array of shoes. My shoes. And I immediately got the point. The pain of that log. Here I am. Here we are. And I found that too. I've had the experience of criticising a colleague to another, and knowing before I started the criticism that I shouldn't be doing it, and being aware of it while I was doing it, that I shouldn't be doing this, and feeling wretched afterwards. I remember one particular incident of ringing the colleague that I was talking to and apologising. The reality is, though, that once the words are out, I can't take it back. I've not only done damage to the other, I've done damage to myself. It's an own goal. And the log in my own eye is actually painful. When we judge others, we diminish ourselves, and its ripples carry on. We have damaged relationships, and we now fear rejection by those we've spoken to. It's a downward spiral. And the thing is that when we criticize or judge others, we rarely have the full story. How often have we found ourselves annoyed with someone, only to discover circumstances that give a full explanation of why they've done what they've done, and how we can feel small and humiliated afterwards. I'm great at assumptions. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, and when I'm wrong, I can do a lot of damage. Judgment assumes that I know, and the others need to get with the program, with my program. Judgment also often involves projection. It's so annoying to see the hypocrisy in others. There's one friend I had on Facebook who continually posts anti-left bile. I mean, it isn't nice, it's hateful, and it's derogatory, and it annoys me intensely. And then he has the cheek to go and post stuff appealing for Christian tolerance. I find it really, really annoying. And why am I so annoyed? Because I know that the same tendency exists within me. You'll often hear me, you will have done, and people have commented on it, that I have no love for the President of the United States, and they're right, I don't. And yeah, I can say stuff about him. It's obvious what is wrong with those other people. Why can't they just get with the program and see the way the rest of us sensibles do and play nicely? The uncomfortable part of this is that everyone else can see it in me, even though I might want to hide from myself. I was at a seminar some months back, and the husband of one of Lynn's workmates was there. And it was one of those things where we were invited to participate, to ask questions and to put our 5 cents worth in. I don't need to be asked twice. And the report that got back to Lynn was that I'm a scary guy. Yeah, and it's true, I can be. I want to be better, and I know that I can be intense. I don't want to be that brash I know it all who assumes he knows better. I do want to be better. My deepest desire is to be that kind, wise, calm, gentle person that others feel safe with. One who exists without judgment and who oozes serenity. That's who I want to be. Yet I find that other intense, scary persons so often claiming centre stage. This journey to being the person I want to be may be a long one. Maybe the person that I am from time to time just needs a hug. I have a very good friend, Frank. Frank is a retired school counsellor. And he works on a simple mantra. He says, he assumes that people are generally doing the best that they know how. It may not look very good to others. He says, but it's good to assume that they're actually doing the best that they can. Given the issues that they face, the gene pool that they come from, their upbringing, and the way in which life might have knocked them about or have blessed them, and the tools they have for dealing with life, they may well be doing the best they can. And I suspect he might be right. Nobody wants to be thought of as a jerk, well, not normally. Yet we do and say things that bolster our fragile egos. We react out of fear dressed up as bravado or strength. We seek to protect ourselves by projecting an image that hides the reality of our own insecurity and smallness. It strikes me that Frank's proposition is a Jesus way of engaging with others. We start with an attitude of goodwill towards others, giving them the benefit of the doubt, even if there doesn't seem to be any. And we're made aware of the brokenness and smallness of vision within our own hearts, consequently allowing us to engage with the other with a greater measure of compassion. What a difference it might make, assuming that others are doing their best. The first person I went for supervision to when I came here to Christchurch 26 years ago was a retired minister. I think he was one of the people who started Lifeline in this country. And he challenged me. He spoke of actually having this young man referred to him by the courts who had actually pushed a broken bottle into his wife's face. Everything in him revolted against this person and against being asked to spend time with this man. He was given 3 sessions to spend time with him. He didn't want to do it. John was a man who deeply loved his wife, and the idea that someone would do this was just anathema. It was just appalling to him. But he spent time with him. And as he listened to this man's story, as he listened to him tell about his life, he became to a place of deep love and respect for him. He says the thing that amazed him was that he hadn't killed somebody. He said, because if I'd been in his position and lived his life, I may well have done. We don't know the lives that we're rubbing against every day and that we find it so easy to judge. We just don't know what they've been through. And so we can imagine what the world might look like if we all desisted from judgment, both in practice outwardly and in our hearts. If we assumed the best of people, even if the evidence apparently weighed against them. And if we not only anticipated the best in others, but also anticipated it in ourselves. Maybe we can live up to the better part of us, the redeemed part. And what a difference that might make. God bless you.